G'day everybody, welcome back to a brand new video on the YouTube channel. And today I'm going to be going through what I believe to be the best players from each individual club. Now if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when new videos coming out. Enough wasting your time, let's get straight into it. Alright, now we will be doing this in alphabetical order, so we're going to be starting off with the Adelaide Crows, and the player that I think has played the best this year for the 2024 from the Crows will be Jordan Dawson. At the moment, this player is averaging 10 pressure acts per game, averaging 5 marks per game, 3 clearances per game, and 34 contested possessions for each game that he will play this year. Overall, this player has been playing his absolute heart out this year, and I don't think the Adelaide Crows will be having much success this year without Jordan Dawson. Now from the Lions, it was a bit of a tough pick, but I've came down to one player being Josh Dunkley, and these are the reasons why. In my opinion, he's the best midfielder for the Lions, averaging 25 disposals per game. Although he's not getting many kicks in, he's averaging 14 handballs, meaning that he's helping out his team a lot. Speaking of his kicking accuracy is 60%, meaning that he's also a good kick if you need to go for long ranges or short ranges. Some could argue that he's also a lot more of a defensive player as well, averaging 7 tackles per game. Overall, I think this player isn't just one of the best midfielders for the Brisbane Lions, I think he could potentially be one of the best midfielders for all of the competition at the moment. The next one is Carlton, and I had 2 choices between this one, and I was thinking either Charlie Curnow or Mr. Harry Mackay, and I've came to a decision and I've chosen Charlie Curnow. Now let's just state the obvious, he won the 2022 and the 2023 Coleman medal, and proof that he isn't all just hype, he averages 92% time on ground per game. He's also a decently tall player as well, meaning that you can always count on him to get his hands up, and he's actually averaging 6 marks per game. Overall, you can count on him to get a good mark every once in a while. He also has a good leg to kick on, so I'd say he's definitely one of the best players for Carlton. Let me know if you agree in the comments below. Now, as a Magpies supporter, this one was really a no-brainer, and I've just gone straight with Nick Dacos. From what I've seen so far, he's one of the best midfielders in all of the competition. He averages 29 disposals per game. He's got a 67% kicking accuracy, so it's a little bit higher than Josh Dunkley's. He averages about 16 kicks per game, 11 of them being effective. And in Nick's second year of playing professional AFL football, he came 3rd in the AFL Brownlow for 2023. Overall, Nick Dacos is an absolute superstar, and I'm looking forward to see how he goes in the future. For the Brisbane Bombers, I've given it to Zach Merritt, and where do I even start? At the moment, he's averaging 30 disposals a game, 21 of those disposals actually being effective for his team. He's also averaging 17 kicks per game, 10 of them being effective kicks. He's also averaging 4 marks per game, and as a midfielder, getting a grab in the midfield is actually quite difficult. And his kicking efficiency is tied with Josh Dunkley from the Lions being 60%. Overall, Zach Merritt is an absolute gun. He recently won the Anzac Day medal, which is why I've said that he's the best player for the Bombers. Now, my pick for Fremantle, it actually could change as the season progresses, but at the moment, I'm going to go with Caleb Sarong. After looking at the stats, he's actually averaging 32 disposals per game, which is pretty good. Half of those disposals being uncontested and the other half being contested. He's also averaging 4 marks per game, and as I said with Zach Merritt, it is pretty difficult to get a mark in the midfield, which is why 4 marks is actually quite impressive. And you can also count on Caleb Sarong to be a bit more of a defensive player, as he is averaging 5 tackles per game. Overall, Caleb Sarong's an amazing player, and I think Fremantle would actually suffer this season without him. Next one is Geelong, and this one was a bit more difficult for me, considering Geelong have had so much success this year, and a lot of the players have helped in their own ways, but I've had to come down to one player, being Max Holmes. This guy's kicking efficiency doesn't even compare to the others that we talked about today, being 70%. The stats also show that Max Holmes is averaging 10 handballs per game, and on top of that, 5 marks. And lastly, he's averaging 13 kicks per game, and none of them actually being effective for his team. Overall, Geelong's success this year has been absolutely amazing after their premiership hangover last year. And I think even without Max Holmes, they would still be doing pretty decent this season. But I think after reviewing Max Holmes' stats, I think Max Holmes is one of the main reasons that Geelong are doing so well this year. This next one is Gold Coast. This one was pretty simple for me, considering this player has been the best player for Gold Coast for the past few years. And this one is obviously Touk Miller. You can always count on him to get the ball, because he's averaging 26 disposals per game, and that's actually pretty good considering your team isn't actually doing well. He's currently averaging 13 handballs and 5 clearances per game. And on top of that, he's also a really defensive player, and he's averaging 6 tackles per game. Although Gold Coast have been pretty poor the last few years, and they're actually starting to rise up a little bit more this year, some would argue it's Damien Hardwick, some would argue it is Touk Miller. I think it's a bit of both, but I would say that without Touk Miller, they'd be doing pretty poorly once again this year. The next one is the GWS Giants, and this was another simple one for me, and I'm going with Tom Green. This bloke is currently averaging 30 disposals every game. He's also averaging 14 kicks per game, with more than half of them actually being effective. Although he only has 85% time on ground, he is pretty effective when he is on the ground, considering he gets 16 handballs per game at the least. And considering the Giants are on their way to becoming a top 4 side this year, I think they can do it as long as they have Tom Green at all times. This next one is from the Hawks, being Karl Amon. At this point in time, he's averaging 6 marks per game, 16 kicks per game, and 12 of them actually being effective, which is really, really good. His kicking efficiency is 75%, which is really good for a side that isn't doing really well ladder-wise. And at the moment, he's averaging 23 contested possessions, which is really good considering he's versing sides that are considered better than the Hawks. Overall, even though the Hawks are doing pretty poorly, you will notice that Karl Amon will stand out a lot more compared to the worser players at Hawthorn. This next one is Melbourne, and you guys might actually be quite surprised that I've actually chucked a ruck in here, being Max Gawn. And as a ruck, besides the little tap that you do in the bowl-ups or the centre bounces, it is quite difficult to get a touch, which is why Max Gawn's stats compared to the other rucks in the competition are absolutely outstanding. He's averaging 7 handballs per game, which is more than a few players that aren't even in the ruck. During the ruck contest, he's averaging 37 hit-outs per game. He's got a 47% win rate in the ruck. And for each game that he's playing, he's managing to mark the ball at least 6 times. Overall, Max Gawn has shown that being a ruck doesn't mean you're just effective during a ruck contest. You can also be effective outside of it too. Next one is North Melbourne, and this is a bit of a newer player, being Harry Sheezel, the previous rising star. As one of the youngest players in the competition, he's averaging 32 disposals per game. And considering he's playing for a side that hasn't won a single game this year, he's averaging 19 kicks and 15 of them are actually effective for his side. His kicking efficiency is currently 80% here in round 9, and no matter what, even if he's having a good or a bad game, he can average 13 handballs per match. Overall, this kid's an amazing player, and I just see his career taking off from this point forward. Now, Port Adelaide was down to 2 players, being Zach Butters and Connor Rozee, but based off the last couple of weeks since Connor Rozee has been out, I've gone with Zach Butters. At the moment, Zach Butters is averaging 28 disposals per game, along with 14 kicks, 9 of them being actually effective. And as I stated before, it is pretty hard to get a grab in the midfield, and he's averaging 4 marks per game. Overall, Zach Butters is one of the best players over at Port Adelaide alongside Connor Rozee, but if I had to pick out of the two, I'd 100% choose Zach Butters. Next one is Richmond, and even though this player has been injured for the last few weeks, I think it's still pretty obvious that he's one of the best players for the Tigers, being Tim Taranto. From the games that he had played this season, he averaged about 25 disposals per game, and he overall averaged 88% time on ground for each game that he played. And out of the 14 kicks that he performs per game, 7 of them are actually effective. And he does like to find a way to share around the ball, averaging 10 handballs per game. Overall, as the previous BNF winner, it is quite heartbreaking to see him injured, but I'm hoping he can have a nice recovery pretty soon and be back to playing some pretty good games of footy once he returns. Coming to the final 4 teams for the video, the next club is St Kilda, and I've chosen Jack Steele. At this point in time, he's averaging about 26 disposals per game, and 20 of them disposals actually being effective for his team. Another player that does like to share around the ball a pretty fair bit, he's averaging 15 handballs per game, and no matter who he's playing or where he's playing, he's a bit of a defensive player as well, and he's averaging 7 tackles per game. And on top of that, he's averaging about 5 clearances for each game that he has played. Overall, I think Jack Steele is one of the best players for St Kilda. Not only that, but I think he's one of the reasons that St Kilda have been able to win as many games as they actually have won. Coming to the final 3, the next club is Sydney, and I'm going to say Isaac Henny is the best player for the Swans. At this point in time, he's averaging 27 disposals per game, 14 kicks, 10 of them actually being effective for their team. His kicking efficiency currently sits at 70%, and for pretty much every game that he's played, he's managed to kick at least 1 goal. Overall, I think Sydney definitely need to work on their forward line if they're relying on the midfield to kick goals for them, but I think Isaac Henny is an amazing player, and I can't wait to see how he goes in the future. Second last club of the video is the West Coast Eagles, and I'm going to say Liam Duggan is their best player so far this year. At this point in time, he's averaging 23 disposals per game, 18 of them actually being effective, which is pretty good considering you're playing for a club that was previous wooden spooners. He's managed to average 18 kicks per game, 14 of them being effective as well. And he definitely has no trouble getting his hands up high since he is averaging 7 marks as well per game. And he definitely is getting a fair share of his game time considering he's averaging 85% time on ground. Overall, even though the Eagles haven't played the best game of footy so far this year, Liam Duggan has definitely stood out the most to me. And the final club of the video will be the Western Bulldogs, and this player would arguably be one of the best players in all of the AFL at the moment, being Marcus Bontempelli. Each game is averaging 25 disposals, 13 of them being contested, 12 of them being uncontested. He's also averaging 12 kicks per game, and on top of that, he's averaging 5 clearances. Overall, some would argue that Marcus Bontempelli is going to win the Brownlow medal this year, and at this rate, I'd definitely say so. And that just about wraps up today's video. Now, if you guys did enjoy, please feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when new videos coming out. Also, feel free to comment below if you guys want to see more of these type of videos on the channel. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.